Hey everyone, we're going to go over the new clip released by the Total War channel. They're going to release a Dark Elf Let's Play tomorrow, which I'm very much looking forward to. We've seen a lot about the Lizardmen and Skaven, but to be quite blunt with you, I want to see more about the High Elves and the Dark Elves. One of my favorite factions of Warhammer are the Dark Elves, and we're going to let Darren go over all the content that they'll be going over for tomorrow. He's going to give you an overview of the map involving the High Elves and Dark Elves, all the factions involved, and then I can talk a little bit about it and go over my thoughts about all of it. So here we go.
Hello everybody, ahead of the release of our first look at the Dark Elves campaign tomorrow, we wanted to take you on a tour of the entire Vortex map for Total War Warhammer 2. This video will lift the fog of war and show you the starting locations of all the playable races and sub-factions. The locations of Skaven clans will still be hidden, but for the explorers out there who want to discover the new world for themselves, be mindful that minor spoilers are ahead. Riddled with chaos, corruption and roaming Norscan tribes, we'll start out in the Aghall Wasteland, the most northeastern point of the map. We're journeying south now past Albion toward the north of Ulthuan, where the weather clears up a bit and we encounter the hardy sea folk of Kothic. As we venture further south along the chain of sporadic islands of the Eastern Ocean, you'll notice a lot of dangerous and difficult to navigate rocks by the cliffs, a hazard for any seagoing army. As we crest around the southeast of Ulthuan, the mountains cast long shadows on the islands of Yvresse. These islands are rich in treasures and exotic sea creatures. Many a plucky explorer has ventured out here looking to make himself rich, only to never be seen again. Now we arrive at our first playable faction, Lothern under the legendary lord Tyrion of the High Elves. Tyrion starts with a large group of High Elf factions at his back, so has a relatively comfortable start position that can be bolstered with trade and defensive pacts to make Ulthuan an impenetrable fortress. Turning south now, we'll venture across the Shark Straits to the Land of Assassins next to the coast of Araby, currently inhabited by several Bretonnian crusaders who've claimed this land for the Lady. The dwarfs of Cobra Pass need pay no attention in their sandy mountain holes as beastmen tribes run rampant along the coastline. Across the land of the Dervishes lies Sudenburg and the Necrarch Brotherhood, factions in constant battle for the control of the shifting sands, while the greenskins of Arachnos fight for control of Karakzoan. Here we encounter our second playable faction. Along the coast of ruins is where we can find the last defenders, led by Kroq-Gar of the Lizardmen. Aside from roaming beastmen armies, Skaven hordes gather here, no doubt an indication that the ruins here may be infested with the Vermintide. Southward along the shifting mangrove coastline reveals a beautiful coral reef, flanked by a string of ruined settlements. Armies will find landing at these beaches troublesome, as many ships will become stranded and bogged down among the deadly ocean banks, and exploring the ruins can yield riches or awaken unknown ancient magic. Our third playable faction is Clan Moors, led by Queek Headtaker of the Skaven. The High Elves of the Fortress of Dawn have ventured deep into the southern jungles where Queek Headtaker has an ambush lying in wait. Once dealt with, Queek will only have to look north for conquest. Across the expansive churning gulf, we arrive at the High Elf-owned Citadel of Dusk, at the southernmost tip of Lustria. The majority of Lustria is comprised of ancient ruins, jungles and swamplands, with the dwarf-controlled spine of Sotek forming the mountainous backbone of the continent. Onwards now to our fourth playable faction at the Turtle Isles, we have the Order of Lore Masters under legendary Lord Teclis of the High Elves. Teclis is quite isolated out here and surrounded by enemies. He'll have a tough time clearing the coastline and linking up with any other High Elf factions. Across the spine of Sotek we venture out to our fifth playable faction, Clan Pestilence led by Lord Skrolk of the Skaven. Surrounded by the Lizardmen faction of the Southern Sentinels, Lord Skrolk will also find it difficult to push out of the Lost Valley and establish a foothold in the vast jungles of the south. Working our way north now beyond the ruins of the volcanic islands, we arrive at the Vampire Coast, a corrupted and tainted region eroding away at the lush jungles of the Mosquito Swamps. Further north, beyond the Settlers' Coast at the Isthmus of Lustria, we have our sixth playable faction, Hexodal led by Lord Mazdamundi of the Lizardmen. Mazdamundi is in a bit of a tough spot. He's surrounded by Norscan settlers of the Skeggi, the Greenskin Blue Vipers, and the man-controlled New World colonies, as well as bordering several ruined settlements. Along the far sea beyond the Fallen Gates, we encounter the corrupted wastelands of the Ashen Coast. These are harsh lands that few dare to colonize, and where even fewer survive. Eastward across the Iron Peaks, we have our 7th playable faction, the Cult of Pleasure led by Morathi of the Dark Elves. She spreads her corruption across Nagaroth, consuming all who come into contact with it, friend and foe alike. Nagaroth is largely the theatre of the Dark Elves. The coastlines are all inhabited with different Dark Elf factions, and the climate is suitably cold and barren, echoing the torture and death that can be heard billowing out across these lands. Finally, we'll venture along the Sea of Chill to the Sea of Malice, arriving at our last playable faction, Nagarond, under Malekith the Witch King of the Dark Elves. So that's it for our quick tour around the Vortex campaign map for Total War Warhammer 2. Tomorrow, we'll join Malekith midway into the campaign as he leads an invasion of Ulthuan. We hope you've enjoyed the video, and remember to subscribe for more exclusive Total War content.
Well, that was really cool. So I'm going to go over a few things that I want to talk about too, now that we've gone over a little bit about the video. First off, the campaign map looks wonderful. I'm very happy to see that they put a lot of time and detail into it, and the overall design of each and every faction. So we have a lot going on. The map is really huge. I mean, from what little I saw in the Southlands, whenever I got to play, it was a big map, man. And I thought that it might be bigger than the vanilla game. It might actually be. I mean, there is a lot more water here, so I mean, that is a huge factor too. It's really a shame that we don't have our sea battles that so many of us want, which could potentially be due to the rights of the sea battles being given to another indie company. That might be why, because the sea battles in Warhammer Fantasy are actually their own game. And because of that, those rights are probably their own thing, and they were given again to another game company. So that could potentially be why we don't actually have sea battles. Not that CA could ever mention that. If that is true, you can't quote me on that as being completely true. But if it is true, they can't actually mention that, because if they do, a lot of people would go hate on that little company and their little game. So that would be a really bad idea. So a little bit about Tyrion and Teclis. Tyrion and Teclis might remind you of two characters from Dragonlance if you're a fan of that novel series. Now, Tyrion is one of the greatest generals and leaders of Ulthuan. His chief duty in his eyes is to defend his people of Ulthuan, which is the island from where all the High Elven people come from. Now, to let you know, each kingdom in the High Elven Kingdom is its own entity. You have various princes and all of that, where, I mean, it's a little bit like in the Empire, where you have counts who lead their own counties, and then you have the actual emperor. Well, here you have the Phoenix King who leads over all, but you do have your individual kingdoms like Safari and Illyria, or did I get that right? I don't remember the name. I know there's just Illyrian Reavers, but anyway, you get my point. So that is what you have over there. And then you have Teclis, who's potentially one of the greatest mages in the world. Well, no, he is. He actually beat Malekith in a battle that put him over Malekith when it came to actual magic prowess. And so he's even better than fucking Malekith, which is very incredible. But yeah, they are twins. And Teclis is very sickly and weak and gaunt and frail, but his magical capabilities are huge, and he believes in protecting the entire world. And you can kind of see that because he's the one who helped found the colleges of magic over the Empire under the rule of Magnus the Pious. And then you have Tyrion, who's a bit more haughty. He's a bit more into just kind of going after protecting his own people. So I'm very glad that we have a bunch of unique factions. And I did mention Araby by name, so it's making me wonder if we'll actually see Araby in the game. That would be very cool. Even if they had to make up like a lot of their own armies and units or whatever, I don't care. If they flesh out the entire world, that would be incredibly cool. So not only would we have Tomb Kings, we would have Araby and other factions out there. And I'm all for that. Even the Ogre Kingdoms would be very cool. So hopefully we'll get a lot more variety when it comes to all of that. There's so much in the Warhammer world. I really do hope they touch up on pretty much everything major, like even the Dogs of War, which I wonder if that'll be in game 2 or 3. The Dogs of War will add so much. I mean, that'll be like its own system. And the Ogre Kingdoms, again, are also very cool. They're like Mongolian ogres who are led by Khans, and they're not really evil or good. They're just kind of led by wealth or the idea of wealth and greed and just wanting to make more money or to get loot. So that's really kind of their premise. But yeah, we've seen a lot of the map. And again, it looks very cool. I'm looking forward to tomorrow's series. let me know if you want me to stream it tomorrow and then give my overview, or if you just want me to do, well, whatever. So again, just let me know down below. Check out my channel for more Warhammer 2 content. And as always, until then.